application portals can look very different depending on the type of role that you're applying for, and every company just does it differently. So let's take a look at two different job postings that I found on LinkedIn. They have very different job application portals. So this is just to give examples of how much variation there can be among these application portals. So the first one is a policy advocate. When you find a role online on a site like LinkedIn, you always want to start by scrolling down and making sure that there aren't separate application instructions at the bottom. So this has some notes that it's important for us to pay attention to, but ultimately in order to apply, we need to click this button up here, the blue apply button. So I'm going to click that, and now it's going to take me to the Sierra Club Careers website. And I'm going to scroll down once again, make sure I'm not missing any information. They have some special notes, so I need to pay attention to that, things that I need to do specifically on my resume. But let's get into the actual portal. So I'm going to click Apply Now. So this is one of these simpler portals. Unfortunately, many are a bit more complicated. So a lot of these sites are going to require that you become a user on the site, that you create an account, that you come up with a username and password. Fortunately, this is giving us the option to continue as a guest. So we're going to do that. For now, I'm just going to put in my work email. This is just a test. Everything with a red asterisk, you have to answer. Obviously, this computer knows me. I'm going to just say test. I'm going to skip all this information for now because it's not required. We're going to say that we found this on LinkedIn. Oftentimes, companies want to know how you first heard about them. We can skip all of this. However, we want to let them know right now that we are work authorized. So I am authorized to work in this country for any employer. If you have work authorization, don't worry about some of the little nuances that we talked about earlier. For the purposes of this website, you can work for any employer. Okay, so now we're going to upload our resume. This you should already have spent some time creating. We've discussed it in previous modules, so I'm going to browse. Let me go to my documents, and I'm clicking Test Resume, and I'm going to click Save. So now my resume is uploaded, and then I have to review and submit. So you want to make sure you read this, just that you understand and agree with everything, and then you're going to sign your name, put the date. So I'll just put test for now. Today is the 13th. You can review everything that you entered, make sure it's correct, and then you'll hit submit. So this is one of the simpler ones. I'm not going to submit right now because this is just a test, but let's go over now to one that looks a little bit more complicated. So this role is a program associate with the Children's National Hospital. And again, we're going to scroll down, make sure there's no additional instructions we need to pay attention to. This one doesn't have any. So again, we'll click this blue apply button. And now, similar to with the Sierra Club, it's taking us to the separate website that is specific to the company. We'll scroll down once more, make sure we're not missing anything, and we can go ahead and click Apply Online. Now, this is one of those situations where you do have to create an account in order to move forward. We don't have here the sign in as guest option. So the benefit of that is that if you decide to apply for multiple positions within one organization, you don't have to fill out the basic information multiple times. It will save all of that. The downside is we have to create multiple usernames and passwords for every one of these sites. So if I already had an account, I would go ahead and fill this in. Let's say I don't. So I'm going to click New User. Now I have to come up with a username. It's usually best just to use like your first name, last name. So I'm going to just say test. For a password, try to come up with something that you will remember, but is not going to be easy to guess. There's not quite as many security issues with this as there are with some other places where you would need a password, but let's do this. Re-enter it. And I'm going to skip the email address because I don't have to enter it. So I'm going to click register. Okay, so now it takes me to the actual application. And as you can see, there are a lot of steps here. So we'll just kind of walk through it. You have the option of uploading your resume or importing data from LinkedIn or Indeed. As we said earlier, these uploads can get a little bit confusing sometimes, like they don't always pull the information correctly. So I'm going to say no thanks, I will fill out the online submission manually. Save and continue. So now, similar to the last application, they want to know how I heard about it. We're going to say social media. Now it wants to know which social media, LinkedIn. And now it's asking for basic information. So I'm going to put my first and last name. It wants your home address. This is common. They shouldn't ask for more information beyond phone number, address, like mailing address, and your email. But this is common. I'm just going to put the asylum workers address. And let's just do test. We're in the United States. Oh, and now they want to know what state, District of Columbia, and region. Okay, not too many options there. Primary number. Unless you have a home phone, most people are using a cell phone. So now I have to enter my cell phone number. I'm just gonna do a test one. And an email address. I'll just do test@gmail.com. Now, this is not required, but if you do speak multiple languages, it would be a good idea to enter that in this area because that is going to be a strength for many candidates. And it's going to ask you to pick your level. I'm going to just delete that for now, but just to show you. Desired salary, unless this question is required, it's always best to skip it. You don't want to run the risk of eliminating yourself too soon because the number that you put here wasn't what they were looking for, or run the risk of underpaying yourself. So we're just going to leave that blank. Save and continue. Okay, now it's going to ask us some basic questions. And as you can see, these are all required. These questions here are very typical for job application portals. They want to make sure that we can legally work in the US. We can. Will you require sponsorship now? If you have your EAD, then you can click no for this. Candidates for employment are required to take a pre-employment post-offer physical examination. So this is going to be similar to something like a background check or a drug test. All of these are required of candidates after they make a conditional verbal offer, but before they allow you to officially start the position. So I imagine we have to say yes in this case, that we will do a physical. Have you ever been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor? If you're not sure, this is a good chance to talk to a lawyer, but they want to know if you have a criminal background, essentially. I'm going to say no. Have you ever been counseled, disciplined, or discharged from any employment for engaging in violent or threatening conduct? We're going to say no. If your answer is yes to a question like this, like if that's the reality, I would talk to a lawyer. Have you ever been previously employed or had any working relationship with this company? They want to know if you have any sort of relationship because that's going to give them some more information about you. I'm going to say no. And if you are employed and you are under 18 years old, well, I am not under 18, so we're going to say NA. That means not applicable. And save and continue. As you can see, we're still going. There's a lot of questions here. Please fill out the following. Okay. Do you possess a bachelor's degree? And this is if it's from the United States or your home country. We'll say yes. 1 year of relative work experience. I'm wondering if they mean relevant, but let's say yes to this. I recommend always saying yes unless there's a very strong reason not to do so. Like you really have just never worked. Okay, education. So this, in theory, would pull from the resume if they do that correctly. But let's go ahead and enter. So I'm going to say I went to University of Maryland, and here it's coming up. So I can just click. Let's pretend that I went for English. Okay, let's say English studies. Great. Education level. Let's say that I got my bachelor's degree there, and we will check, yes, I did graduate. If you went on to get more degrees, or let's say if you didn't get your bachelor's degree, you got an associate's degree, or you did like a certificate program or something, you can click any one of these, but make sure that you at least put your highest level of education. And if you went beyond bachelor's degree, click add education. Now we have to add work experience. You can enter as many as you would like. Just to keep this long video shorter, I'm just going to go ahead and put one position right now. And we're going to say that it's my current job. You're not required here to answer these questions. Again, always avoid discussing salary if you can. Because this isn't marked as required, you can avoid that. Otherwise, if you want to include it, you would just copy and paste from your resume. Save and continue. Okay, so now we can attach additional information. If you did not upload your resume in the beginning, in fact, regardless, I think you should always attach your resume. So we would say choose file, test resume, comments about the file. I'm just going to let them know it's a resume, click attach. Let's say that I have also written a cover letter, which unless they specifically tell you not to, you should always have a cover letter. So I would do that again for a cover letter. Maybe I want to go ahead and send them my references in advance. This is the chance to upload everything. So once you've done that process for everything you'd like to show them, save and continue. And now here is where they get into the demographic questions. A lot of companies are making an effort to diversify their staff, hire people from different backgrounds, but you never are required to answer these questions. So as you can see, they're asking about my gender, but I can always say I don't wish to provide this information. I'm going to go ahead and say that for every question, because you are never expected to give this information as part of your application. And legally, even if you do provide this information, they're not allowed to use that to influence the application, because that could be considered discrimination. So we're just going to say, I don't wish to provide this information, save and continue. Now, a lot of times, this is a common form that you will see. Companies are also trying to hire more people who have some sort of disability. So again, I'm going to say Christina Test. Today is the 13th. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say I don't wish to answer. They give you some information about what they're looking for, why. Here's what they consider disabilities. I'm just going to say I don't wish to answer, and then save and continue. E-signature, so this is similar to what we saw with the Sierra Club application. Enter your full name. And by writing my name here, I'm telling them I've read this whole thing and I agree with it. Now here's where it gets a little complicated, as if it hasn't already. This specific job is requiring a talent assessment. Now, this talent assessment is something that is typical. These types of tests as part of an application process, they're typically seen a little bit later in the process, but I guess it's not unheard of that you'll see them right away. It's saying here that you have to complete it, because otherwise it might be rejected. So if you have the time right now, go ahead and do this. Otherwise, you can just click Save as Draft. And then you can say Quit. One benefit of this is, one benefit of having a sign-in, like a username and a password, because you can always come back. But let's say if I try to save and continue, it will not let me, because you have to take this talent assessment. So let's open it. I'm not going to go into any detail with this right now because this is just, we're not doing this. The purpose of this is not how to answer these test questions, but it's going to give you instructions and then it'll get into the questions. And it looks like it's going to take a little while. So let's save and exit for now. But again, I won't be able to submit this application until I've done it. So this is just an example of 2 different types of online application portals. One far more time-consuming, difficult, complicated to complete, and one that's a bit easier. So you can see any number of types of application portals while you're going through your job application process. If you ever have questions, talk to somebody you trust. You can always email the hiring manager. But there's a lot of different things out there, so just be prepared to know how to answer a lot of different types of questions. And good luck!